Hey guys, how's it going? This is going to be a great day. You know why? Because I have Screwball, maker of the peanut butter whiskey. This video brought to you by Screwball, maker of the peanut butter whiskey. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you're over 21, drink responsibly. Anyway, moving on to the sales data. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, but I'll give you a preview for the end of the video. SM Pratt just made a new video. If you don't know who he is, basically the Prince of Pokemon. I will link his video down in the description. He made some great points about the T17. Again, I have two of these, and right now one of these, not this one, but one of these, is listed on eBay. The only one that is a grade 9 or a 10. There's no 10s available. There was one guy, I guess we get into this now at the beginning of the video. There's one guy on E4 who had said that he has a first edition PSA 10 Typhlosion, number 17. And he's not going to let go of his. And he knows, he's tracked down 8 other people that have that first edition PSA 10 Typhlosion. And they're not letting it go. They're either not selling, or they're in a financial position right now where they don't need to sell. They don't have to. They're not affected by the Rona. They're not affected by the horrendous decrease in the stock market, although it's been going back up the past week or so, which has been great. And the only other one that was available, because again, he has one, he tracked down 8 more. That brings us to 9. There's only 10 PSA 10 copies in the pop report. The only other one that he didn't track down was from the seller in Switzerland that had it up for $25,000. That's what it was listed for. And they just took it down. I don't know if they're a member of E4 or if they saw my videos or Scott's videos or any one of those videos and thought, you know what, too much controversy on this right now. If this 9 keeps going up to $4, $5, $8,000, then they're gonna increase their price. What do I expect the 9 to get to? Well, I have a chart right here, and I've explained it to you guys before. Generally, the PSA 10 copy, again, if we're talking about first edition WotC, hollows, that will sell for average around 5 to 8 times what the 9 sells for. And on the upper end of normal, that'll be 10 times what the 9 sells for. On the lower end of normal, that'll be 3. But most likely, all of these cards, with the exception of 1 or 2, follow this rule of 5 to 8 times what the 9 sells for. And if the last one sold for $2,000, which it did, and even I had an offer for $2,000 for mine. I did not sell it at that though. Let's just say $2,000 is a new price point. Let's say the minimum, and 5 times that would be $10,000, which is the last price point of the 10. That makes sense. 8 times that would be $16,000. Will that be the new record price point for the 10? I don't know. That $25,000 I don't think had a or best offer option. I don't know. It's taken down right now. Now, obviously, 10 times what $2,000. That upper end of normal would be $20,000. Could it sell for that? I don't know. That 10 is exceedingly rare. Not only is it a rare card, like similar to that Yamna first edition PSA 10, also from the Neo Genesis set, also insanely hard to grade. But it is not just hard to grade, like impossibly hard. But I've heard arguments that saying that even the 10s, that the cards that have 10s don't deserve a 10. There is centering issues, or there's a red dot, or there's whitening, something that is just, it's not a true strong 10. Like, yeah, okay, it got it. This little thing made it past the PSA grader who makes $15 an hour, and it got a 10, or it's a weak 10, or it should be a strong 9. Whatever. The fact is, at that high at that scarce an item, a 10 is a 10 at that point. Because from what I've read, that there's not a true 10. Dude, a 10 is a 10. If you happen to make it past a PSA grader that says, like, you know what, this is better than all of the 9s I've seen, you get a 10 that you're basically paying for the grade at that point. You're just paying for that instead of the 9 of the 10. These cards, again, there's only one copy on eBay right now, listed for PSA 9 at $4,000. Will they get a new price point? Because that one does have a or best offer. So I don't, who knows what that'll sell for. So moving on to sales data, now that we're 5 minutes into this. Flareon, first edition, PSA 9, sold for $295. We had a Dark Blastoise record price point for this card. First edition PSA 9 sold for $232. The old record price point was for $200, so this one increased by $30. It increased by a very good amount. The only other 9 that had sold for more than this was one that was signed by Arita himself. And that one sold for $400-something. And what I've noticed with the Arita signatures is that whatever the record price point is for that particular card, if it has Arita's signature, it'll basically double it. That's the pattern I've seen for all of his signatures in the sales so far. Moving past that, we have a Lieutenant Surge's Pharaoh, first edition PSA 8, sold for $47. I made a comment about this particular card the other day that sold for $100-something in a PSA 9 version. And that one, I think those are a little undervalued because the 10 sold for, I think, $1,000. 10 sold for a little over $1,000. And if, again, 10 sells for 5 to 8 times with that, that 9 should minimum be $200. And the 8 usually gets around 50% of what the 9 gets. So the 8, I think, should be more. I probably should have bought that. Move on past that. We have another record price point for Brock from Gym Heroes, that first edition PSA 9 Hollow. So for $172. I don't know what the 10 would sell for. Obviously more than that. But we also saw something similar with Erica last week that sold for $170. Same thing, something like that. Where the 9 sold for $172, but the 10 had sold for $155. Like that was the record price point. So obviously there were no 10s available, so people got the 9. But then we saw 2 more 9s come in for Erica's Hollow from Gym Heroes. That retraced about $80, $81. So that makes sense. Will Brock do the same? I don't know. We will see. We have a Neo Discovery Kabutops, first edition PSA 9. Another record price point, selling for $305. My God, I don't know what the 10 will sell for. Again, we will see. We had a Blaine's Charizard. I don't know what's people with buying this card raw for so much freaking money. Now, I understand if we saw a card a few weeks ago that was fantastic. Most likely would have gotten a 10, but it potentially could get a 9 because PSA has been a little harsh with that lately. And that sold for $600-something. If the 9's going for $600, yeah, that makes sense. But this one was first edition, it was raw, but this one had dents, it had a lot of whitening, a lot of edge wear. Like it probably would have gotten like a 4. Sold for $125. And the second bid was $123. The third bid was $107. So you have 3 people bidding $107 or more on what I think would be a 4. Ooh, my shoulder's getting tired. We have a Hitmonlee first edition PSA 9, sold for $82. Second bid was $81, third bid was $75, and this Hitmonlee had usually been selling for well over $100 recently. Again, from the Fossil set, first edition PSA 9. So I'm wondering why there's a retrace. Not sure. There's 2 10s listed right now for $600 and $500 on eBay. So obviously this is not going to help those people that have it listed for that much. Moving on, we have a Scyther first edition PSA 8 from the Fossil set. New record price point for the 8, sold for $72. We have a Fossil Raichu, first edition PSA 9. This one came down a little bit too. Normally these sell for $100, sold for $81. And we have a Dark Magneton. This one I also think is pretty undervalued because the 10, I don't think we've seen a 10 sell in the past months. But the 8, first edition PSA 8 Hollow from that Rocket set, sold for $48. I think that's pretty undervalued. That's something I should have gotten. That's something, if I see it again for $50, I will buy that all day. I'll buy every single one of them. Because again, I think that's undervalued. And because you can't get the 10, what we're seeing with Typhlosion 17, you can't get the 10. You cannot. Unless you bought that other guy's card for $25,000. Then people are going to get the 9s. And there's a lot more people that can get the 9s for, $1,000 something dollars. It's going to drive the price up. It means the 8 will go up. Moving on past that, we have a Aerodactyl first edition PSA 9, sold for $80. Fossil set, it was a hollow. So a lot of things from the Fossil set is going down. I thought that was interesting. My friend Joe had talked the other day, and he knows that base set, first edition, Shadowless, they have stayed stagnant. I've noticed that Jungle has gone up a little bit, and Fossil has gone down a little bit. So that's an interesting point to take a look at. We had an Articuno, 2 sales for the first edition PSA 9 from the Fossil set. The first one that ended at auction was for $137. Nice. Second one that ended like 20 minutes later from that sold for $160. I think that's a new record price point for the Articuno. I'm not 100% sure, so I guess don't quote me on that. That's a great card. It's a hollow. It's a beautiful card. Fossil, again, if that's a new record price point, that's the only thing in Fossil that is going up. Maybe because it's a legendary bird. I don't know. I guess speaking of legendary birds, we had Zapdos, first edition PSA 9 from the Fossil set as well, sold for $115. Had a Dark Raichu. The only first edition PSA 9 that sold for above like 105 was for like a week ago, sold for like 180. It was a random sporadic one that I don't think should have been that, because every one, like this one that sold for 102, it had been around that $101, $105 range. We had a Dark Dugtrio, first edition PSA 10, sold for $280. It's a beautiful card. I love that card. We have a Dark Hypno, first edition PSA 10, sold for $180 at auction. And before that, you know, like yesterday or the day before that, it was a first edition PSA 9 that I had listed for like $70. I got an offer for $55. I said, maybe I'll sell it for $64, which I shouldn't have. I should have just kept, someone would have bought it for $70 based on that $180 number. It sold for $64. That's what I sold it for. I sent it out today. Anyone that, I guess I'll try to link my eBay site too. I always send it out the very next business day. You know, if you buy it at like 4 a.m, I'll send it out that day. If I wake up, oh, all right, I gotta send that out. It's fine. I'll do it that day. I try to emulate the best sellers as much as I can by sending out with cardboard, a bunch of bubble wrap around it, and if it qualifies, then obviously insurance if I need to. If the situation warrants it, I will. Had a Giovanni's Nidoking, a first edition raw copy. I looked at it and I thought, a little bit of whitening, tiny bit of edge wear. I would have given it an 8, sold for $40. Good. If that gets an 8, then I think that 10 is so undervalued. Again, there's 200 copies, but it's such a cool card. And that's something that Giovanni actually had, the Persian, and that, like, there's a couple of cards that, you know, these trainers that they didn't have. Like, I didn't see them ever have. I never saw Brock have a Dugtrio. In the show, in the game, I did not see him have one. But he has that. You know, I never saw Blaine have a Charizard, but he has a Charizard in these sets. So, but this is something that Giovanni actually has. He had a Nidoking. I never saw Giovanni had a Gyarados. I never saw that, but he has that in the cards. But something that he has, it's great. It's so beautiful. I think these are undervalued. Again, I'm a little biased because I love those cards, but again, I sold for $40. But speaking of Giovanni's Gyarados, the first edition raw copy, which I would have given an 8 as well for the same thing as the other one, sold for $61, which makes sense because that does tend to sell for premium. We have a Gengar first edition fossil set, PSA 9 hollow, sold for $180. And we had a Dragonite, new record price point for this Dragonite, for this fossil set, first edition PSA 9 hollow, sold for $305. However, it was a private listing, so we don't know if that person had like negative feedback or no feedback or, you know, whatever. Lapras, the other one that I think is very, very undervalued still. It's a first edition PSA 9 hollow from the fossil set, sold for $162. I think that's a record price point. I told you guys I had bought like 6 of them from the $120 to $140 range. Again, I think 162 is still undervalued because that 10 sells for like $1,600 to $2,200. So again, based on the math and my formula, that's why I think that 9 is undervalued. Had a these Blaine's Arcanines and Charizards have been selling for, so I don't know whether it was a post I made on Instagram that showed I have 4 Blaine's Arcanines and 5 Blaine's Charizards first edition PSA 10, and those are not for sale. Or the fact that these just keep new record price points each time they're sold for a 10. The 9 had a $360 or best offer. It was sold, so we don't know what it sold for. But even if it sold for $300, that's the record price point for the 9. And that 10, which I think sold for $1,100 or $1,300, between $1,100 and $1,300, that's due for an increase as well. The 9's definitely catching up. We had a Charizard, first edition PSA 10. Again, the last 2 that sold were for like $1,600 and $1,900, but that $1,900 that sold for the Blaine's Charizard was that the winning bid had a lot of good feedback. the second bid had either 0 or -1 feedback. I forget what it was. So that was, and then the third bid behind that was like $1,200. So I thought that was interesting. But the $1,600 one, that had all those bidders that came close to that had good feedback. So we're guessing anywhere between 1.6 and 1.9 is the new record price point. But this one was listed for 2.2 grand or best offer, and it sold. Maybe there's someone that sees that, hey, these are kind of hard to get. They don't come around that often. The only ones that are on sale are on sale for like $3,000. So they probably saw their opportunity and took it. Moving on past that, I told you guys about that T17. And just to reiterate what I had said again, to piggyback on my former comment, anyone that was in the military, you know that piggyback comment, probably rolling your eyes. These cards are beautiful. And again, everything I could say about it, I think SM Pratt already said. Again, I will link that in the description. These cards, like, people that want something, I don't know. I'm going to talk to people that maybe you just don't have a social life. Maybe you haven't traveled, or you've stayed in, your hometown your whole life. But there are people out in the world where I've traveled all throughout the world. There are people that will work 18, 20 hours a day. There are people, like, I know I have 2 businesses. I work minimum 16 hours a day, and other people run circles around me. Other people that I've seen in Kuwait, other people that I've seen in other countries that just are not America, which are used to the 8, maybe 9-hour days if you get a 45-minute lunch break, but people that run circles around me, and I work fucking hard. There are people that will, and not even just, and they're inside this country too. There are people that are going to see this card. They say, you know what, the 10 is a 5-figure item. That PSA 10 is a 5-figure item, and because they have a family or whatever they have, it's just not fiscally responsible for them to get that. But a 9 that sells for, $2,000, they can get that. If someone is working only 10 hours a day right now, and let's say they're working 4 or 5 days a week. Let's say 5. Let's say they're working, let's say 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week, they're 19, 20 years old, and they are not in school, they're off for the summer, whatever they're doing. They're working 40 hours a week at a Walmart or a gas station, or they have so much more time during the week. People that are working 40 hours a week, that is nothing. That is not, I'm thankful now to be doing less than 80 hours a week right now. Again, 2 businesses, but there are people, especially me also when I was young, when I was 19, I was trying to support myself. I would work that 80 to 100 hours a week. And people will do that for things that they want. They will go and get another part-time or another full-time job to get what they want. Whatever it is that they want, whether more money that gives them more access to women that say, like, oh, hey, you have a little something. You have a nice car, you have a nice apartment. They'll do that. People that want Pokemon cards, they will want people that want to get a better body, so they could afford protein, and they could afford, their gym membership, and they could afford the good quality food that you can't get from shopping at the dollar store, like good quality organic food or Pokemon cards. They will get it. They will move mountains or die trying. They will say to themselves, they will look in the mirror every fucking day, and they will say, you are going to do this or you're going to not, but I want you to fucking try. I want you to make something of yourself. I want the people that love you to be happy and proud that they know you and say, look at what my friend did. Look at what they worked to achieve, and that's what motivates them. And people that don't know that feeling, I feel bad for. Because they won't know true victory. Like, life has there was a quote from Sucker Punch, or for those that life has a flavor that those that never struggle will never get to taste. Working so hard for something and then finally getting it is one of the most beautiful, unshakable feelings in the world. It is almost spiritual, religious, emotional, and whatever your motivation is to get that, good. This is something that, again, whatever your motivation is, whether it's family, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's preparing for the apocalypse. Keep it up. Do it. Keep going. And if you're only working 40 hours a week and you're not doing anything with the rest of your time, there are other people outworking you. There are other people bettering themselves, whether it's the gym or they're learning a language, learning an instrument, or buying Pokemon cards. My second business, a whole business, is dedicated to buying and selling these and making videos and Patreon and going over sales data, going over people that buy and sell and what they do it for, and making up that formula where the 10 sells for 5. I invented that. That is me. I am a fucking frontiersman of it, and the only other people that I've seen do that are someone that says, okay, so this percentage of the 10 and the 9, again, it's something that I haven't even followed yet. Someone I saw on E4, SM Pratt with his videos on YouTube, TCA Gaming, Rudy, there's Leon Hart, there's a bunch of people that have done it before me, and they've given me the confidence to do it. And I'm sorry this has gone on for 22 minutes, a long ass video, but this needed to be said. People that say like, oh, that's too much, fucking work for it. Fucking take what free time you have. I know people have free time, and just work for it. That's what I have to say. If you want something bad enough, you'll get it. Whether it's a 9, whether it's a 10, whatever you want, you can get it, but you have to work for it. No one's just going to give it to you. All right, you have to work for it. That's it. Sorry that was so long. Sorry for the cursing. Hope you guys had a happy Easter.